As I continue the effort to cut down my backlog, I eventually got around to Beyond Two Souls. As with many games that I intend to play at some point, I try to avoid spoilers for however long it takes. Some are easier than others. I was not able to with this one. I was aware of at least two of the potential endings and some of the most notable or controversial scenes from internet osmosis over the years. Beyond Two Souls looks to be one of those games, the ones that were given high praise mostly for having a big budget and premium presentation. It appealed a lot to players during a time when the industry made a huge push to reach out to people who don't actually play or like games, and one of the approaches of doing this, at least outside of the mobile gaming space, was this set of games that basically work like watching a movie or a show where you control the main character and can walk around the sets a bit, look at stuff, talk to characters, before you trigger the next cutscene or sequence that moves you to the next location. Whenever I look at these walking simulator games in a cynical manner, that's what it looks like to me. And of course, there are quick time events that also exist to make you feel like you're part of the action in more intense scenes. A lot of studios benefited from this trend. Arguably, Telltale Games and Quantic Dream were some of the biggest, albeit with Quantic always having bigger, more premium-looking products with Hollywood talent attached to them. Having played it now, I think that if this came out today, it would be received very differently. Outside of the backlash I'm sure would be caused by some of the depictions of the female lead, this being a Western game and all. Unfortunately, the concept is tired now and no longer novel. I myself have admitted in one of my recent year-end videos that I've sort of begun to sour on these narrative-heavy, gameplay-light experiences. If this was 7 years ago when I started this channel, it would have been on the list for sure, due to just the story and writing. Unfortunately, over the years, I've sort of soured a bit on these games that sell narrative and choices as their main and only appeal, mainly because they tend to sacrifice a lot of other gameplay elements to achieve this, and also because experiencing the various outcomes requires you to replay the game, or at least certain sections, which more often than not I find myself completely uninterested in doing. The core reasoning for me, at least, having given it some thought, is that they don't really offer much for a commentator or critic to discuss in the way of gameplay. You kind of just have to talk about the story, because there isn't much else going on in most of these games. This I think came across in my double exposure video and will also sure to be highlighted in my Lost Records video that will come out later. I imagine a counter to this line of reasoning would be, to simply enjoy the game for what it offers and not worry about what it isn't. Well, see, therein lies the problem. Fun, engaging, or just addictive gameplay can offer cover for a subpar narrative, and the reverse works as well in many cases. If one of these is absent, the other has to do all the heavy lifting, and sometimes it's just not up to the task. Case in point, Beyond Two Souls. As a quick summary, the game covers, in non-linear order, the life of Jodie Holmes, who has been linked since her birth with an otherworldly entity that protects her and gives her special abilities. As a result, she's been kept on a military base since birth and basically has been monitored and prepared for use by the CIA and the government by extension once she's older. You follow her story as she navigates around various incidents at different points in her life, which all inevitably end up in some sort of chaos, either brought about by Aiden, that's the entity's name, or by other people's reactions to Aiden, from being scared of he and Jodie to trying to use them to trying to open a breach to another dimension called the infraworld and connect to more of these types of entities. These incidents take the story to various locations, leading to interactions with different characters, and you, the player, get to affect some things here and there, affecting the fates of various characters and relationships. In the end, you also get to choose Jodie's fate, meaning whether she chooses to stay in the living world or to join Aiden, who's revealed to be her stillborn brother as a final plot reveal, in the spirit world. To start off with some positives, I like the facial and vocal performances for the most part. It's a 2012 product, but I personally think that it still holds up well enough. Same for the various locations, especially the larger desert-based ones. The variety in locations also feels pretty nice. I kept imagining that if this were an actual movie, it would probably be so expensive to shoot in all these locations. And yeah, that's basically it. Most of what I found positive comes down to audio-visual presentation. Everything else was disappointing. To start with, the non-linear approach to the story really did not work for me. Now, there is an option as you start the game that allows you to play a remix version which plays out the chapters in their chronological order. I chose not to do this as I wanted to experience the narrative as it was originally intended by the director. Now, that option kind of felt like the one in South of Midnight which I mentioned to turn the combat off. The moment I see options like that, the red flag starts showing up in my vision. I expect this was added due to people complaining about what I've experienced myself. Now, to be clear, the issue is not the story being out of order in principle. It's the fact that the non-linear format adds nothing of value to the experience. The scenes seem to have been chosen at random. Usually when a story is told out of order, it's because it enhances certain reveals or recontextualizes scenes that have been seen from a different point in time. It can give information new meaning, it can reveal misunderstandings, expose long-term game plans. I mean, there's many ways to take this kind of approach with non-linear storytelling, but this game does none of that. It seems like it was just a cool thing they thought would be nice to have or like a trendy thing, and so they just went with it, but it adds no value. It just makes the story irritating to handle when it keeps jumping from point to point. There is also quite a bit of contrivance in this story. If I was to use a derogatory term to summarize the experience here, it would be a misery simulator. The design goal for Jodie's story arcs seems to be that bad things should happen to her in order to transition her to the next point. As such, no matter what you do or don't do, everything turns to chaos inevitably no matter what. Again, just like before, the problem is not the idea. It's the quickness and sometimes ridiculousness with which things happen. The other Quantic Dream game I've played is Detroit Become Human on the PS4, so I will use that as a counterexample to compare apples to apples. I feel like that game has less of this problem because you have an ensemble cast. While there is still a lot of drama and mishaps, it's spread out among multiple main characters, and so it does not feel as ridiculous that every single one of these things is happening to the same person everywhere they go. Early on in the story, Jodie goes to a birthday party. No matter what you do or don't do, the kids will turn on her and lock her up in a closet. When you befriend a group of homeless people, their place will inevitably be set on fire, and no matter what you do, Jodie will be knocked out after that, since she needs to enter a coma to force her out of that location and move her to the next one, and the CIA just happened to finally find her the very moment she wakes up 3 months later on the dot, not a minute later. Most of the plot points play out like that. They just feel ridiculous. They don't feel clever. They feel mostly nonsensical. There is a point at which you're having some kind of escape scene from a train where you eventually get into a bike. This went on for so long, I almost wanted to delete the game. It's just too long. The bike is not that interesting. They should have kept it very short. What I hoped for is that the second I get on the bike, the scene cuts to the next area. But they force you to drive the bike for a long time. I guess someone wanted to enjoy that mechanic. I'm not on the same page with them. I hated it. This game also apparently has no fail states, it seems. I messed up quite a bit in some of the QuickTime events, and it felt like I never got punished ever. The sequence would simply just keep going with Jodie taking more damage, and no matter how much you mess it up, it just keeps going. So at some point, it feels like you really are only affecting how cleanly Jodie makes it out of any situation, not whether or not she actually does. It's a real tension killer and waters down the urgency that the visuals and audios seem like they're trying to invoke. And I will add one more thing. The final choice felt kind of hollow for me. You have a binary choice, and the appeal seems to depend on how many people you let live or die. I saved most of the characters in my playthrough, so the spirit world ending choice seemed a lot less appealing. I imagine it would change if you let a number of the characters die, meaning that you can join them later in the spirit world. I feel a bit uncertain about the moral implications of that choice there. Anyway, once you're done, it then teases an incoming future war with the invading entity force, showing Jodie and another powered girl getting ready to save the world, Terminator style. This was so ridiculous that it made me smile. It seemed like such an inappropriate ending for this game, and can actually sum up my overall issue with the title as a whole. The tone is all over the place. It bounces between being a bit political with the government and their shady goals, to being an action movie romp with explosions and high-speed chases, to a ghostly sci-fi apocalypse invasion story, sort of like a bit of a horror, to a romantic drama dating thing. It's just all over the place. It's sort of like they just accepted all ideas and everything had to get in there. And I think this hurts rather than helps the experience in the end. Alright, that's all I've got. If you've made it this far, thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one.